Hello everyone, Reverend619 here. How the devil are you? I finally did it. I finally finished. I went through the game on unfair, and I think I found an incredibly overpowered build, and I've been able to do just about every boss first time in one turn, or slightly over one turn. If I'd done it with a second attempt, I could have easily done it in one turn, but going through blind one-turning every boss on unfair, pretty good. Pretty good build. Highly recommend it. Literally only played it because it was Pyromancy. So let's quickly go through some things here. So at the moment, the stats do not look the best, but when you have some basic buffs going with your Pyromancy, the dodge will go from about 200% up to 390%. You'll be seeing your momentum, even without a Santic buffer, going up to about 40. Your deflection will easily be going up to 13, and your armor about 95%. And this is all mostly coming from your own Pyromancy buffs, Arc Militant buffs, and some other stuff around that. So basically, this build is a Space Viking that fires lasers. He is Surtur incarnate, basically. He is a Space Viking that blasts things. So I'm going to run through the build. We're going to section this in 3 ways. I'm going to put some little timestamps below, and I will have a written guide that is linked into it because I've already got that up on Steam and also Reddit for people to read through. I am working on a spreadsheet to do multiple Rogue Trader builds as well as companion builds, and I will run through some videos on it. So the 3 stages, you've got your early game, which is going to be your first tier of archetypes, your mid game, which is going to be most of your Arc Militant, and then your end game, which is going to be your Exemplar. I will also go for some item sets that are roughly good for around that, but we'll start off with the leveling process because obviously we don't want this taking way too long for you. So the idea here is we go from Warrior, Arc Militant, Exemplar. Obviously, the first ability you get is Charge, nothing to pick from here. It's just a really good way to get in and out. For the actual skills, I'm going to show you what I've done, but realistically, you're probably going to want to skip over them because the skills that I've picked is going to be because I've picked them because that's what my party needed, but you can get other stuff. So going in at rank 1, you get Charged by default. Rank 2, I took Coercion because I needed a face type character before I got the Officer, which comes in Act 2, which is J. You pick up Endure by default, and now level 4 is what you get before you actually go off and you fight the first boss, the Chaos Spawn. Now on unfair, that is the hardest boss in the game. Now on my original run, I took Nimble, but that was actually a mistake. What I should have taken there was Dueling Mastery. So at rank 4, take Dueling Mastery, and at rank 11, take Nimble. And this was just something that I tested but from my unfair run. I've corrected the written guide, but I just haven't respected in game. Level 5, we take Relentless Blaze. This is basically when you're burning, you start up your Psi rating. At the moment, you're still mostly playing Endure, Melee, and you're using your Ignites a little bit of range DPS along with your burst fire of your pistol. You won't be setting yourself on fire until level 6 when we get Orchestrate Flames. Now, what Orchestrate Flame does is the target does not stop burning and no longer makes tests stop burning. Additionally, if the target is an ally, every melee attack that ally makes inflicts burning damage. This is when the build starts to come into play. Now, at this early on in the game, you're still going to be wanting to use fire grenades because your own pyromancy damage is going to be too much. You might not even want to set yourself on fire yet. You might just still want to keep playing it melee, endure, using cover, taking pot shots, and get in and do melee where you can. Highly recommend swords for the early deflection on later difficulties. On earlier difficulties, you can start straight with axes for that crit bonus and the bleeds. Level 7, we're going to start up on our agility because we need to get ready to start dodging things. We also take Psyker Minoris, which is going to increase our Psi rating, but rank 8 is when the playstyle actually comes online, and we can actually start becoming a melee Pyromancer. Around level 20, though, we're going to start becoming a ranged nuker as well. So, level 8, we take Body of Flames. This gives us additional armor, so when we cast Ignite on ourselves, we don't take much damage. We can then endure up, Orchestrate Flames. We're now buffed. We can go in, and any burning damage you receive is now what you do in melee. So if you use a fire grenade and you get like 8 points burning, you'll do 8 extra damage. If you use your warp fire damage and you inflict 40 points of burning around on someone, that's how much extra melee you'll do. If you double that with other skills like in Flames, so every turn they'll take a tick of 80, That's how much extra damage you do on your melee. You can later get to ways that you can crit on that. So for our Daring Breach upgrade, we take the ability that gives us 4 MP on each kill, and we can use our MP after attacking abilities. This is actually key to the playstyle. You need to take this. So after kills, you can keep moving, and this is how you become a mobile tactical nuke. Sparks of the Great Flame is what allows us to basically crit. So they all get crit chance, and the chance increased by all bonuses that crit chance. So now our ticks can crit. Weapon skills, we need to start hitting some stuff. Now, rank 11 is where we get Firestorm. So we can basically move into crowds of enemies, and if we're already on fire, we can set ourselves as the target. It does AoE damage, sets everyone on fire, and it doesn't hurt us as long as we target ourselves. Like I said, swap Dueling Mastery and Nimble. Level 12 we take Agility and obviously Cruise. Now we take at level 13 Swift Movement, so we can move around the battle more, get in position more. At this point you still want to be heavily using cover and not putting yourself at danger. At rank 14 we get Willpower. Later on you can respec and get rid of this Willpower depending on if you do what I did, but we'll discuss that later. Then when you get to your Daring Breach, the last one we take is Daring Breach 3. So this you can also change. So I originally took Daring Breach 3 here, but if you want to go pure DPS, I do suggest swapping to Daring Breach 4, which is also what I've done in my guide. My original play was a little bit different, but in the written guide you'll see I say take Daring Breach 4 because your melee attacks will actually do more damage. So this will pretty much up it quite a bit. This deflection stuff was for early game. I really needed that, and I didn't want to respec on my run to keep it pure. But this is going to be sort of your early game. At this point, you're still going to be wanting to use light armor. You're still going to be wanting to use a sword in one hand and probably a pistol in another. You do not want to be getting into secondary ones. The boots and gear, you want anything to increase your melee, to increase your damage. If you find anything to increase your skills, your strength, go with that. But you'll start coming into Act 2 finding other items that will buff you. In Act 1, there is a vendor that sells the bodysuit that I'm actually still using in the end game, which is actually the Psychic Body Glove. You ignore the first critical hit damage in combat, and your base armor property is 3 times psi rating percentage dodge if the willpower is more than 40. Very useful, very useful. I actually get quite a big buff from here. It's a 30% dodge buff. So yeah, I do highly recommend that. You can also find early on the Adrenaline War Boots. In combat, another 20% dodge buff. Highly recommend it. These 2 items definitely carried me early game. That's for sure. There are some other, like I said, this armor, fantastic. One of the other trinkets that carried me quite well in the early game, here it is, Grace of the Oblivious. So, very useful early game, do recommend that. And like I said, any other items that you can get earlier on, there's not going to be much to choose from. It's not really until Act 2 that you start getting more opportunities, and Act 4 is where most of our end game stuff is. So as you find things, just start equipping what seems to make sense that applies to the melee. You're going to be wanting to have a lot of support from your allies early game, and possibly a lot of med pack use. But around the mid game, as soon as you start getting into Arc Militant, that's where this build really comes to life and doesn't need as much babysitting. Okay, so moving into Arc Militant, the big thing about Arc Militant is by switching between single hits and area hits, as well as different weapons and even different Pyromancer or Psyker abilities, you build stacks of versatility. Each stack gives you 3 weapon skill and ballistic skill, and if you have 4 or more, you do additional damage based on whichever is higher, 10 plus the bonus. This is how we really start racking up damage. You can go and use an axe a hit, then you can use a firestorm, then you could use a molten beam or an ignite, or you can do the area sweep attack of your melee weapons. You do this to start building up stacks, so you do more damage. The more damage you do, the more damage you will continue to do. With the soldier's heroic action ability as well, every time you kill, not only will you increase your damage, you'll also increase your movement. With a weapon that we're going to use, just by hitting, you're going to start increasing your damage. Rank 2, we take Wildfire. This, basically, depending on how many stacks of versatility we have, is how much it costs, but it gives us another attack and ignores the cost. Very good. Rank 3, we take Always Ready. This one, it gives us 2 stacks versatility, so we start off with that. Rank 4, we get Steady Superiority. It can give us another attack each round. There's some other uses that come to it. I actually found that I didn't really use it that much, so I was clearing the battles so much by using the other early ability. Rank 5, we get an AP increase as well as agility. Rank 6, we get Blazing Inferno. Yeah, our critical hit chance increases by 1% every time we deal damage. Good. It's why we didn't need to take the Deathworld Origin abilities. Yes, I took Deathworld Origin because of that 20% dodge when you have temporary health. Very good. Agility, take at rank 6. Rank 7, Molten Beam. This is now where we become a ranged caster as well. Molten Beam will nuke everything for double your ignite damage in a straight line. We also, at the same level, take Backdraft. It will deal half the damage that it does to another person. If you hit groups of enemies, it will do multiple halves of damage to different people. So if you hit 2 people standing in a line, they will both take the beam damage as well as half extra from each other. Fantastic. If they have no armor, you will also set them on fire. You can then use Ignite or Inflame to actually explode them. Pretty good. Melting Armor is what we then take next. So each time we do damage, we reduce that armor by 5%. If the armor is at 0, Molten Beam applies Warp Burn. Good. Very good for melting bosses. From rank 8 is where we can start armor stripping. Rank 9, we increase our weapon skill, take Psyker Terminus, which increases our Psyker rating. Custom to Glory is what we take whenever a heroic act or desperate measure is used. We get +1 and 10% damage on all attacks till the end of combat. Good. I started going into awareness because it's a skill I needed here, but then we buffed weapon skill. I took Steady Superiority 4. This is important to take first. It means that in a battle we can use both the Soldier and the Arc Militant Heroic Act. Good. Level 13, I needed Athletics for my team. Again, pick whichever they use. Fire Within is what makes this build busted. Every 8 kills or criticals, you get a free attack costing 0. This means if you walk into the middle of people and you do a firestorm on 4 people and you crit and you killed them, that's a free attack. If you are building enough AP and enough damage, you can have unlimited attacks, especially if you're landing those AoEs. You, at higher levels, will always crit. Now, for rank 14, I've put It Will Not Die. However, I moved this to later because for Act 3, we actually need Subtle Manipulation. Having the extra health was nice, but one of the bosses, if you casted near them, could one-shot you. So I changed this to Subtle Manipulation for rank 14. Again, I will link this below so you'll be able to see where I've changed this. We do want to change that. Inflame we still take here. Very good skill. Basically, anything that's on burning will proc their burning damage, and it will also double. By doing so, we'll actually also increase our melee. So this skill, very powerful for us, actually. Level 16, we take Dismantle. Our area attacks, melee and range reduce the deflection of all enemies by -2 and the armor by 7% until the end of combat. You can't stack here, but it's a quicker way to armor strip enemies, so we can start doing some more damage. Level 17, we increase our strength. Athletics, again, it's up to you, whatever skills that you need for your party for that one. Rank 18, we take Discipline and Toughness. Discipline, we get an extra stack of versatility whenever an ally grants us an extra turn. So move, we'll do this. Bring it down, we'll do this. Heroic actions of Seize the Initiative will do this. The ability that the Navigator can get to give you a free charge will also do this. Basically, extra turns will also give us this stack. So even Bracer Impacts get into cover will also give us a stack of this. So it's an easy way that during the buffing phase, we can actually get some stacks rolling. At level 19, we take Toughness and we increase our Psyker rating. And at level 20, we get the Steady Superiority 2, which means that every attack grants a stack and 2% bonus critical hit chance. You are going to crit a lot. So around here is when you'll be going into Act 2. Depending on how well you've done with building up your reputation, you might be able to pick up Carnage. Now, Carnage is one of your big go-to axes because each successful hit with this axe increases critical damage by this axe by 20% till the end of combat. You can also do the bleeding ability. If you don't have this just yet, one of the Mars pattern chain axes will actually be good because all chain weapons have extra 25% damage. So by the time you're going into Act 2, getting ready to go into Act 3, you'll probably be wanting to swap over to one of the chain swords. Yeah, because it will do that extra 25% damage that it does for critical. Very useful, and it will start to build up. You at this point, as soon as you get the Swashbuckler's Cloak, you'll want to swap to 2 melee weapons because you'll get 10 weapon skill and extra critical damage. Act 2 is also where you can pick up the exoskeletal gloves. You do that on the derelict ship. Give us plus 10 strength and plus 5 toughness. You probably won't be able to get the Starmouth Scarf till Act 4 because that's when it unlocks in the shop. But there are some other items that you can use around this phase. Again, it depends on how well you've looked for it. You're going to want to go through and see what is best for you at this stage. One of the items that you can get that is very useful early on. At the moment, I've got the Halo device on, so I did lose out on a slot. But I do prefer seeing those big stat boosts. But you'll probably want to use Hand of Offense because it will increase your melee damage by your Psi rating. You will actually do more damage with this than you will with the Halo device. But I like the regeneration. I like the immunity to injuries whilst playing Unfair. And I like the fact that it uses only your physical stats and ignores your other stats. So yes, you can rack it up, but you will probably do more damage with Hand of Offense, especially with the Warp Surge brooch. This is very useful for getting those extra attacks, securing the momentum that you need to be able to do all your big damage. There's some other stuff you can use like Mystic Ward. There's a couple of other items that will help increase Psyker. Anything that really ups your area of attacks or gives you stuff to your Psych stuff, like the Silver Shard, which is... because the Silver Shard will... or was it Mysterious Shiver? I think I've actually put that on my Idra. It's on one of my characters. But basically, when you use a major Psyker ability, it will actually increase your damage. If you read the description, it will tell you if it's a minor or major Psyker ability. You can normally only see that in combat when you hover over and you extend on the right click. Moving into the end game. This is when... By now, you should already be one-turning encounters from level 22. By the time you're in your end game, you're entering Act 4, you're getting all your big, really decent weapons, and you're just going to be demolishing everything. So at rank 1, we take Extermination. This increases our damage by 1% for every time we do damage in the combat. We take Rigorous Training, so Charge and Slash do not end our warrior's movement, and we gain 90% dodge for 1 round after you. So if you charge, you get an extra 90% dodge, which is really good. Again, Cruise I take here for the toughness rating, but... take the skills that your team needs. Blood Haze here will also increase our dodge when we've meleeed something. So it's another way to stack that. So here is when I did take it, or when you should take it, will not die. Subtle Manipulation you should have taken earlier, as I said. Like I said, check the spreadsheet. We want to start upping our perception here, especially if you're playing an Unfair like I did, because enemies start dodging. Rank 4, we can take Incinerate. For every enemy that's burning on screen, this does more damage. This can out-damage the Molten Beam as long as you have a lot of people on fire. If you don't have a lot of people on fire, not going to do as much. We take Critical Velocity and Critical Versatility. Basically, our critical hit chance and our critical damage are increased by 5% of our character's dodge. We have 390% dodge, so that's a lot. Critical Versatility are basically our stats for our ability and get bonus to critical damage. So, especially with this, as we start doing more damage and build up more stacks, you're going to see numbers start to skyrocket. You're going to be doing over 1,500 damage beams. You're going to be doing really big melees. We increase our weapon skill at rank 6. Crowd Kill will increase our area attack. So this is stuff like our Molten Beam, our sweep ability on our axes or your swords. Or it's also for your Firestorm. Very, very good ability for helping stack things. Reckless Rush, we take at rank 7 for Exemplar. This will help keep us mobile and making sure we're getting into the fights, do the damage, build momentum to get those heroic actions. We take Toughness as well, and then at rank 8 we take Flash Fire. This will actually, it ups our abilities to use our wildfire quicker and sooner. It's very good, especially because you can get that down to 0 cost quicker. I go into dual weapon combat here. So this means that we can if you don't before you have the warp surge bros, you will get a lot of use out of this. Afterwards, not so much. But you do need that to be able to use Axe's abilities a little bit easier. But you could easily replace this one if you wanted to. It's not vital. Rank 9, I took Karus. Again, skills are up to you. Eager for battle. We get 2 action points. Very, very useful for this build. There are some other things you could take to get your damage up, but we don't need it. We need the actions more than the stacks. Rank 10, we get an AP increase. Rank 11, easy target. We do more damage to people that don't have melee weapons. Good. Rank 12, burning blood. Whenever we cast any psycho ability, including self buffs, we damage everything around us. The same happens when we suffer any sort of damage. So it's a little bit of thorns here. Not the best. You could replace that one if you wanted to, but I still like the theme of it. Rank 13, we take dependable. So we get bonuses to armor based on our stacks. Very, very good. We take toughness. Weapon skill at rank 14. Awareness, again, like I said, you can change that. Tricky defense at rank 15. As long as we're in light armor, the dodge is increased by 1% for every 3% of the armor bonus. We're increasing our armor. We're increasing our dodge. Good. All out. Whilst under the effect of Rex Rush, basically our attacks do not spend movement points. So we can move and attack, move and attack, move and attack. Rank 17, we take Desolation. We do additional damage to enemies that have no allies. So if they're all spread out, we can do a lot more damage. And with area of effect attacks, even more. It all stacks up. Rank 18, we take Devastating Attack. Very situational, but if you get free buffs, quite useful. We take Toughness with that. Rank 19, we get Cataclysm. All damage dealt by this character is increased by 3% until the end of combat for every new enemy damaged by us this combat. Good. I also took Contempt for the Weak because I got a buff from a planetary upgrade that I stun people by walking near them, so this is just 20% for 3 damage to me. Level 20, we get our AP increase. So, final items that I had here. So I have the Eyes of Jesus, or Juiz, whatever. Basically, increases our psi rating by 1 and for each rank of Dogmatic. So, the +1 is against demons. So, against demons, I have 11. Against everyone else, this plus from Dogmatic, yeah, not a bug. So you can get anything from a 1 to a 5 here based on your ranks of Dogmatic. Highly suggest going for a Dogmatic for this playthrough. And against demons, you'll be going in with 12 psi rating. Against everyone else, you can possibly go to 11. When you set yourself on fire, you'll get +1 anyway. So that's very useful. Star Mist Scarf gives us +2 psi rating. Our dodge does go through the roof without a chest, but the problem with that is we don't get our armor bonus to our own burning, so you'll actually kill yourself with your own self burning. So you'll want to keep this psychic body glove on. As your psi rating goes up, it increases your dodge as well, so it's very useful. Warp Surge Brooch, you could easily swap this out for a different item on lower difficulties. Highly necessary for Unfair, because you need those extra attacks to keep that momentum going so you can get into your criticals. Now, I took the Halo device, mostly for story purposes and because I like what it does. But ideally, if you really want to go for the damage, you're going to want to use the Hand of Offense. So you'll get extra melee attack based on your psi rating. Or you can take the Mysterious Sliver, which will increase your psychic damage based on every time that you use a major psychic power. If you hit multiple things, it does seem to proc harder. The main weapon, Carnage. Now, Tearing Vengeance is one of the best weapons in the game, but with how much we hit, this just it outclasses it a lot. So Carnage will keep increasing damage every time you hit, and whilst you're also stripping your armor, so you get massive buffs by just constantly smashing against people. If that's not how we built this, I would say use Tearing Vengeance, which I think I've actually equipped to a different character, so I can't show you its stats. But yeah, no, it's just better than it. Secondary Sword, watch from the above. This increases our parry and our dodge. It means so we can't get hit. This one is literally a stat stick. Like I said, Swashbuckler's Coat increases our stats. Adrenaline War Boots increases our stats. Secondary Staff I had, Solar Staff. I forgot to use this once the entire game. There was so many times I could have used it. Swapping to it also increases our willpower, but we don't really use it. Yeah, I just forgot. Didn't find it. I was fine without it. What's also very good on this is actually buffs and stims. Again, I never use them, but they help, and they would have helped. So I've been playing some footage as we've been going through this, and I'll just show off some other things. But like I said, this build will carry you through the game, a little bit of smart planning, and you can beat everything on unfair. I hope you found this useful, and yeah, that's all I've got for you. Over now, and if you're interested in this, I will show off some companion ones, and like I said, 2 of the abilities are in the wrong place because I didn't want to respec when I was playing through, but I have corrected them for the actual written guide, so please do have a look at that.